Good afternoon. Exciting day, obviously, anytime that you're coming to a culmination of sometimes a year and a half's work, and that work requires so many moving pieces. This year, more so than ever, I got to say, thank God for the dead period. We needed that time. I needed that time to kind of reboot a little bit, and reboot in terms of we were getting our staff back together during that time, hiring. We used that opportunity to get our new staff together and get back out on the road, and we couldn't be where we are today unless we had 15 student athletes that were committed to Notre Dame from the start to the finish. And really, during a very difficult season, this group of 15 really had to endure, the things that would occur out there in recruiting during a very difficult season. Other schools reminding them about a very difficult season that we had, and them sticking together because of why they wanted to come to Notre Dame. So I think this class, I guess is what I'm saying, is really about the 15 that really stuck together, giving myself an opportunity to reconstitute our staff, put our staff together, and get back out on the road after the dead period and finish it out. And finish it out really strong. We feel really good about the way we finished as well, putting new coaches out on the road, and in some instances with a real different philosophical look at how we're playing defense and looking for a different type of player. So I think by and large, when you look at it from that perspective, you need some really key people. I think the first person I want to talk about is Mike Elston, our recruiting coordinator. During this whole time, he was able to keep this thing together. Keep it together relative to we were short on numbers in a staff. He was calling a lot of those recruits that weren't necessarily his geographically or by position, and really keeping that 15 together so that we could get the staff back and get them back out on the road. Did a tremendous job of keeping that group together. Dave Poloquin, the director of player personnel, did an incredible job of keeping our staff prepared and ready to go when we needed to get back out on the road immediately, provided our coaches with the resources of where to go, who to see immediately. We did not miss a day. And that sometimes gets overlooked in this whole process. Well, Notre Dame's going to go recruit. Well, you got to know who to recruit and when to recruit them. And so we needed to hit the ground running, and we were prepared to do that. And Dave did a tremendous job. And then, of course, our recruiting office, led by Aaron Carney, he did a great job of masterfully putting this together in a very short period of time, of giving us the recruiting weekends that we needed to expose a number of new recruits to Notre Dame in a very short period of time. Jazz and Grant in that office, we couldn't have done it without them. Jazz handles everything on campus for us, and her ability to put together the day-to-day workload allowed us to get to where we are. And Grant in our graphic arts telling the story of Notre Dame. So those people in particular were instrumental. I don't think you get here without an investment from everybody. Every weekend, Jack Swarbrick, our athletic director, met with our recruits. I think that's unusual. I don't think that happens everywhere, that your athletic director makes himself available to meet with your recruits. Look, in a lot of instances, he had to be there to support our football program and talk to recruits about where this program is and where it's going. And there are questions, when a family comes on campus. And he reminded them about, the investment we were making in staff and what we were doing for the present and for the future. So having Jack's involvement in this was absolutely crucial to get to where we are. Adam Sargent from Academic Services is a crucial piece. And our mission is to graduate our players. They need to know that. We're talking about our graduation rates and GSRs. We can't do it without our academic support piece. And Adam does a great job of showing that to our prospective student athletes and the parents that are here. I think Chris Stevens from our faculty is tremendous in painting the picture of what it's like to be a student here on a day-to-day basis and having a faculty member available each and every weekend. He makes himself available for us, does a tremendous job on a day-to-day basis. Don Bishop, Bob Mundy from our admissions office. They meet with all of our recruits. I think that's quite unusual. Our players have to go through an interview process with our director of admissions and our associate director of admissions each and every weekend here on campus. They don't leave this campus without a personal meeting with our director and associate director of admissions here at Notre Dame. So all these pieces moving together started with the 15 and why they wanted to be part of Notre Dame. And then the people that I've pointed out and how crucial they were helping in the transition, allowing our coaches to get back out on the road, recruit the right kind of people here, the right kind of guys to Notre Dame, and then the support staff and administration that I mentioned, allowing us to get to where we are today. I think that kind of puts it in its focus in itself. We think this class gives us great balance, but when we look back, last year we signed 24 student athletes. I'll get a lot of questions on, who do you think will play and who won't play? And, last year we had 24 that represented 11 states. Currently we have 19 representing another 11 states. So again, we're going coast to coast in terms of representation in this class. Last year, 13 of the 24 players that we recruited in this class got on the field. Nearly 60% of last year's class played for us. I hope it's not that high this year, that it's at that number. There's a lot of really good football players in this class, but we're hopeful that it's not at 60%. But we had 6 early enrollees last year. We've got 5 early enrollees this year that are already in our class. So in terms of the numbers, a little bit more last year with 24. We're currently at 19 at this point. In terms of the class itself, I talked about the 15 and then surrounding it. Every year you're looking at, balancing your needs with some of the best players that are out there. And I think that this class, again, goes to that. Needs within a position group, but also when you have some of the finest players, you're not going to pass up that opportunity. The tight end position is a great example. Brock Wright, arguably one of the best, if not the best tight end in the country, but you're not going to pass up an opportunity at a young man like Cole Kmet, who thoroughly impressed us when we got a chance to see him in Irish Invasion. We think that there can't be a better tandem at the tight end position in a signing day today. We think we've got 2 tight ends coming in to obviously a very good situation already with Durham Smythe, Alize Jones, Nick Wisher, Tyler Luatua. I mean, we've got great depth at that tight end position, and these 2 guys only add to it. But I think you start and you look at, the depth at that position really jumps out at you. The other position is we return 4 out of 5 starters on the offensive line, and really 5 guys that have starting experience. But if you take a look at the recruiting on the offensive line, Josh Lugg, Aaron Banks, Dylan Gibbons, Robert Hainsey, these are guys that are rated as high as any offensive lineman in the country. But they're going to come into a situation where we've got, for example, on our left side with Quentin Nelson and Mike McGlinchey, 2 guys that are arguably at the best of their position in the country. So we've got very, very good offensive linemen coming in, but we've got talented players at that position with experience across the board. So we feel great about the depth that we've developed at that position. As you know, we played a lot of young players on the offensive side of the ball, in particular at the wide receiver position. But Jafar Armstrong, out of Bishop Miege High School, is somebody that now adds some size and speed to that position. That makes it very intriguing for us. We think Jafar, somebody that could possibly be that X receiver that gives you that deep threat guy that can really push the field vertically for us. Was a nice addition. To this class. As a slot receiver, somebody that can really do a number of things for us, inside and out. Michael Young out of Destrehan High School. Great football at Destrehan High School in particular. We think that he's got the skills necessary to come in and push and compete at that position. So we're really pleased with the receivers and those 2 in particular and how they'll be able to come in and push the group that we have right now. Many people talk about the quarterback position. We don't have a lot of playing experience at the quarterback position. Brandon Wimbush's reps are very limited, as we all know. Ian Book, we brought in last year that we're very excited about Ian. We had Avery Davis to that position out of Cedar Hill, Texas. What we love about Avery is that he's played for championships. And that's what Cedar Hill does at the highest level in Texas. So he's got that pedigree, that he's used to playing in big games. He doesn't shy away from the competition. And he plays his best in the biggest of games. This year against DeSoto, he was outstanding in a shootout against the eventual state champ. So love his pedigree, love the fact that he played in big games and that he was always at his best when his best was needed. And he'll come in and obviously be counted on in our rotation immediately, but an extremely athletic quarterback that can come in and do some things right away for us. We always talk about how you're going to get to the quarterback, and again, I think in Coach Elko's scheme, and look, I'm not going to tell you that I'm an expert at it at all. He's going to have to sit down with me and spend a lot of time with me teaching it as well. I've tried to go against it. It's hard enough to go against it, but I will say this, that we've certainly upgraded from a defensive line position with a guy like Darnell Ewell, 6'4", over 300 pounds, if he wants to be on the swim team, we'll let him swim too. He's taken up swimming this year, I wouldn't tell him he couldn't do it either. He's in great shape physically. His mental preparation, love the way he prepares and everything. He's got a single-minded purpose in everything that he does. Takes care of himself. Is very committed. He visited Ohio State and Notre Dame and knew exactly where he wanted to go to school. There wasn't much question. I love the way he handles himself on a day-to-day basis, and he's a guy that is prepared and wants to play immediately. And we're not going to tell him anything different. Come over here and compete right away. And, he's got the physical traits and he's got the mindset. And that's what we really like about, Darnell. When you talk about D linemen that really are emerging, Myron Tag Amosa. I'm not going to give you the whole name because I will butcher it. I'll save that as I get to know him a little bit better. But Myron really jumped off the screen for us with his first step quickness for a big guy. We really think he's got a huge upside. We think he's just starting to scratch the surface in terms of where he can be. You know, he's got some length to him. He's got some pass rush ability as an inside guy. He's not necessarily a strictly an edge guy, but he's got some versatility. And we like the fact that he's a young player that's going to get better and develop. And both of those guys really strengthen, you know, the defensive line for us with one really strong, physical 300-pounder who's athletic, physically strong, and one who's really just starting to scratch the surface of where he could be. Speaking of a guy that's developing on the outside, Jonathan McAllister, who played mostly at the tight end position out of Bishop Moore High School, where Parker Boudreau is from. Long, athletic, call him Big Bird. He's just a very athletic player that we're going to play on the outside, and a guy that we think has the length, the athleticism that can play the defensive end position. So those three guys we're really excited about getting him in our program. Give him a chance to develop and see where that ends up. I think when you talk about you know, the back end of our defense, last year, as you know, we played a lot of young players and got some really good experience across the board at corner and safety. So we felt pretty good about it, but we wanted to add some guys in particular that would fit the scheme. And the one guy that jumps off the page for us immediately is Jordan Genmark Heath, is out of San Diego, California, Cathedral Catholic, and this is a product of you know, Mike Elko and his ability to stick with a recruit that he had seen earlier, and Clark Lee. Both of them knew about Jordan, and we were able to get him up here in a short period of time on a visit. And I think we did a great job, everybody, all the support staff that I talked about, in terms of showing him Notre Dame and his family in a very short period of time, and getting him to come to Notre Dame. You know, Jordan's 6'2", 200, really athletic. I mean, you can make the case that he could play on either side of the ball, but we were really looking for that safety that had the skills that would really fit in nicely to the defense that we're going to employ. And so I just think he was a real nice fit. I want to back up another guy that was part of that 15 group, if you will, that had always been kind of the first defensive lineman that we wanted and had identified was Kurt Heinisch, because of his toughness. You know, that we really wanted that tough guy mentality on our defensive line, and Kurt brought that to us right away. Not only did he make plays, but he had a toughness to him. We wanted to upgrade that toughness across the board. We thought we had some big athletic guys. We wanted that physical and mental toughness that Kurt brought to his game. And I would have been remiss if I didn't mention him alongside Darnell and Myron. I just think that we really did a great job of upgrading our defensive line position with those three guys in particular, you know, helping our football team. Going back to you know, the safety position in Jordan, again, as I mentioned, extremely athletic, could play on, you know, either side of the ball, and that's the same thing for Isaiah Robertson. Isaiah, great length out in Neuqua Valley, Bolingbrook, Illinois. You know, his reach is really incredible in terms of what we were able to see in our testing. But again, a guy that we think can play the safety position for us at a high level. You know, comes from a great family. His dad played at Wisconsin, so he's got great genes. In terms of where we play him, he's a safety. He played a lot of wide receiver, but we want to focus on the defensive side of the ball with him. Linebackers, I think we've got two that instinctive, tough tough, smart. I think those are the three things that stand out with David Adams and Drew White. Drew out of St. Thomas Aquinas, a perennial power, comes from a winning program. He's a winner. I need to take this call. Excuse me. Jeremiah, how you doing? This is Coach Kelly. How you doing? Congratulations. Well, that's great news. Great to hear it. Go Irish. Awesome. Congratulations. I'm going to go announce it right now at the press conference. Can I do that? All right, go enjoy it. I'll talk to you in a little bit. Talk to you later. Right, good news. Yeah, I got a pizza out back. Well, I got an announcement to make. We can add another one to the list. Announced Jeremiah Owusu is committed, and we've got his paperwork. You guys can clap up there. You guys don't have to clap, but you guys can. Jeremiah Owusu, another one of those guys that we really fit what we were looking for, especially in Coach Elko's defense, and that safety position that can come down close to the line of scrimmage, plays physical. We hosted him with Niles Morgan, and when you host somebody, you want them to see Notre Dame and see the social aspects. These guys didn't leave the film room. I mean, it was like they were joined at the hip for 6 hours just talking ball and football, and that's the kind of kid he is. He loves football, and he's going to be a great addition to the Notre Dame football family. As a kid, we went to Bethel High School, and somebody that was really well respected in the entire high school, from the principal down to when I walked in, he had his youth pastor there. It said a lot about his character, who he was on a day-to-day basis. So really pleased to be able to get him with us. So back to the linebackers, Drew White and David Adams, just, captains, competitive, smart, instinctive linebackers, just add to what we're looking for, from a defensive perspective. Really, really excited in having them, on our football team. And again, I mentioned, the offensive linemen that are all going to be really good players for us. Aaron Banks, Dylan Gibbons, Robert Hainsey, certainly Josh Lugg, who's, obviously a guy at North Allegheny that, really did an extremely good job at all the camps that he was at as well. And finally, Jonathan Dorr, the kicker out of Charlotte, North Carolina, we weren't necessarily looking for one until he just jumped out at us as somebody with his numbers and his ability and his length at 6'3", extremely gifted athlete. We were looking for somebody that could take over the kickoff duties for us right away, and the strength that he has, averaging 78 plus kicking the football with 4+ hang time, was just crazy numbers. It was just too good to pass up for us. He was a great fit for us, and we went into that. With really no expectations to go after a kicker until we saw him and fell in love with his ability, and then just the person and the family. They were made to come to Notre Dame. So, obviously that brings our list up to 20, and certainly excited about getting all 20 of them on board. So with that, I think I've covered virtually anybody. Mike, anybody I miss? No? Great. All right. So we'll open it up to Q&A.
Brian, you mentioned that Jack Swarbrick met with the recruits. What did he bring to the table with them? What was his message? What was he able to help with in the recruiting process?
Well, there's always going to be questions. With the kind of season that we had, the first question out of everybody's, how long's Coach Kelly? Is this his last year? What kind of year does he have to have? And he assured him, there's no problems with the football program. This is a program that is on solid ground. It was not the year that anybody wanted, but we're certainly not going to come in here and invest in all the coaches that we've invested in because we think we're in a short-term situation. So we're in a great situation here. We're going to build on the young players that we played last year, and we're going to return Notre Dame to where it should be. And again, I think that's the kind of support that we got.
In the stretch run where you might get up to 6 players added to that 15, you not only had to go get them, you had to pull some of them out of other classes. Can you talk about that process a little bit?
Yeah, it's a little different for us, right? We're used to having some of these guys recruited and committed for a year and a half, and coming at it late where you're presenting Notre Dame for the first time from a fresh perspective and they've been committed somewhere else. It's kind of exciting in a sense. I mean, you hate to pull somebody from another school, but you know what? It works pretty good. And I don't mean it as to slight the other schools, but when you can show Notre Dame unvarnished without the negative criticism of Notre Dame, and you can show it for who truly we are, it's a pretty easy decision to come to Notre Dame, instead of having to carry all that baggage of negative, recruiting, for such a long period of time. So it was a bit of a change for us. I'm not saying we're going to wait until the last week and try to cherry pick everybody's commits, but it was a bit of a different perspective for us. And I don't necessarily want to make a habit of, pulling other commits. We'd like to do our own work. But these were the right fits for us as well. And so we went after guys that we felt that fitted Notre Dame, and it worked out pretty good for us.
Lastly, you mentioned the core of 15 and them sticking together. Was there somebody that took in that class that took a leadership role that said, I'm going to be the recruiter and I'm going to be on social media and get after people?
I think there were a number of guys. It wasn't just one. I think there was more than just one. Pittsburgh kind of came together, under David Adams and Josh Lugg, and I think Kurt. All those guys kind of were together as one, and they kind of ran in a pack, and that helped. And then you had Avery Davis, who was extremely active, and of course, we had 5 coming in early, but I don't know. Nobody could be more active on Twitter than C.J. Holmes, So we had a lot of guys that were up and running in terms of social media. But I think more than anything else, it was a group that weathered a season that is one that nobody was proud of and excited about, but they knew why they want to come to Notre Dame, and that was the most important thing. So that happened in the recruiting process. So I would say that our staff did a great job of presenting why they should come to Notre Dame, and that, to me, was why they were able to stay together.
Coach, over here, you talk about the negativity, the outside perception of your class, and when you look at the guys that you've added, there's that perception because they were offered late that maybe they aren't as good as some of the players that you've added, but your coaches have come down here one after another and fired up about the guys that you have added late. Can you just kind of talk about just the quality that you guys feel you've added to your class just over the last couple weeks? Yeah,
so, and I'll go over each one. I'll start with Jafar Armstrong. So, Jafar, when when we were looking at the receiver position, Jafar was on our radar from day one. We just weren't going to take two. When we had somebody decommit, he was the first guy we went after. So we could have gone either way on that. So Jafar was, somebody that we wanted from the very, very beginning. We just, from a numbers game, weren't going to be able to take two. So that was an easy one for us to get back into that one. When you talk about, the safety position with Jordan, we weren't playing. We were playing two flat-foot safeties, and so he was a bit of a different kind of fit for us. And with Mike's system and scheme, he fit better. So the defensive players they were a better fit into the scheme, and so it was much more about being a better fit with a new defensive coordinator. From an offensive standpoint, there was not much of a change there. It was more about, getting the right guy for that position and still recruiting.
You talked Monday about what the new coaches that you've brought in bring to your program from a coaching standpoint. Obviously, that's the number one objective, but from a reputation standpoint, you look at Chip Long, who was a Rivals top 25 recruit a couple years ago. Delvon Alexander's a guy that's got a strong reputation. It looks like you've really, Brian Polian from his time here and other years, seems like you've really looked like you were looking for maybe guys that could really, really grind on the recruiting trail.
I think I looked at everything. They had to have all of those qualities. We were able and were given the opportunity to go out and find the very best. This was not look, we're limited. You can only get this. You can only spend this much money. I mean, we were given the opportunity to find the very best. The charge was find the very best coaches, and so why not put together, the profile of you have to be able to recruit coast to coast. In Dell's situation, he recruited while he was at Wisconsin. He was on the West Coast, the Midwest, obviously, and find the best teachers. So at Notre Dame, you can do that. If I didn't do that, I think I'm shorting the position. And so I think we took into account all of those things.
Excuse me, Coach. We have just one more piece of news for you.
Oh, good. All right, Jazz. We're waiting on this one. All right. A new NLI has come in. It's approved by compliance. Kofi Wardlow, defensive end, St. John's College, Washington, D.C. So, yeah. So we were looking for one more pass rusher. We think Kofi's got some elite skills at the defensive end position where he can grow and develop. We really liked his athleticism and his size. We're really impressed with him in person. Out of St. John's College, really excellent high school in the D.C. area. He really fit the profile, and then reminded us of a young, Romeo Core, not quite as long, but is actually thicker than he is. But just these really young, raw, extremely athletic, and a guy that we think can develop into a really nice edge player for us. So, with Kofi adding to the defensive end position with him, Jonathan, and then the three defensive tackles, really think that we've done a nice job in addressing and adding some more depth to our defensive front.
We're to your right, Coach.
Yeah.
I think one guy you omitted was C.J. Holmes at running back.
I kind of talked about him, but I will add to that versatility. I think is what comes to mind. I look at him as a guy like a Theo Riddick, C.J. Procise. He's going to play both running back and wide receiver for us. We think we've got a nice package for him right away. We're gonna ask him to compete right away. He's going to be one of those guys that we're going to force feed him a little bit and get him involved.
And just picking up the kicker, Jonathan Dorr, at the end there, I mean, was that partially related to, I understand Justin, you have had some surgery, or?
Yeah, he's not going to need surgery. He just needs some rest. We felt like we overloaded him a little bit, and we don't want to overload him with field goal kicking and kicking off. I think we feel like, he's not a big guy, and we want to keep him in his comfort zone, which we think is field goals, and keep him with that. And so this, knowing what he went through this past season, trying to do both and kind of breaking down a little bit, that we want to keep him in his comfort zone. We think he's an accurate kicker. He can win games for you. Let's not mess with that. And so given the fact that we've got a guy that can score points for us, let's go and find a specialist that can kick that thing out of the end zone. And Jonathan can do that. We don't have to worry about, anything. Wind conditions shouldn't be an issue. We're going to get that ball down there, and we'll do anything to make Polian look good too. So he was banging on the table on this kid, and I got to agree with him. When we were able to look at his numbers and the way he kicked the football, he was as good, if not the best, in the country.
I know there's a gratification just about today, but going into the next cycle with recruiting, where are you specifically putting your emphasis on? Obviously, cornerbacks. There wasn't any pure cornerback you signed in this class.
Yeah, the corner position will be a point of emphasis for us. I think elite speed on offense will be, a primary goal for us. Guys that can change the game on one possession. I think we'll see that. I think we've got very good size. I think we've got guys that can run, but we want a couple of home run hitters. And we don't care if they're, Darren Sproles size. We're gonna come off the board in terms of profile, and we want some guys that can change the game on offense with elite speed. I think again on the defensive side of the ball, we continue to move towards fulfilling the needs that Mike needs defensively relative to the positions, and continue to develop the back end of the defense, especially at the cornerback position.
Brian, as you were putting this class together, ultimately, what was the bigger mountain to climb? Was it 4 and 8, or was it the relationships that walked out the door when the staff changed over?
We had really good coaches that left us, but Notre Dame did not change. Notre Dame is still the number one reason why they choose to come here, and those 15 guys chose Notre Dame. So although we lost some really good coaches, that wasn't the obstacle. I think the obstacle was coordination, putting all, kind of Pete, what I said earlier was getting the staff together, putting a staff together, having the chance to do that with a dead period where nobody could touch our core, right? And then reenacting and getting back out on the road in a manner that we could hit the ground running and get back to those guys. Along that period of time, we needed to stay in touch with those guys and keep them informed of the process. I thought what we did really well is we stayed in constant contact with our players, those 15, and they were informed about every move that we were making internally. On a day-to-day basis. We asked them to keep it obviously confidential, but we kept them and gave them ownership in what we were doing. So there was a sense of ownership of what we were doing on a day-to-day basis. So I think they felt really invested in what we were doing. And I think that helped.
Signing day is probably going to look a lot different next year with the calendar alteration. Yeah. Based on how this class came together at the end and some of the work you're able to do, does that change your opinion on whether that's good, bad, or indifferent?
No, I think it'll still break up. I still think that even the 15, I'm not sure that all 15 of them would be early signees. I think some will, some won't. and you got to understand that sometimes it's about how the school is reacting to this as well. Some get the news and the memos quicker than others in terms of how they change and react to it with other sports. So I think the factors are going to be, different, and I think each kid is going to have to react to it based upon also how their school is going to be dealing with it. So I think some will come off the board at that time. I think we're kind of getting our hands around it a little bit. We're expecting some to sign early, but I think our mindset is we're going into it as business as usual, and that we're all going to have to fight to February.
And just as you evaluate the recruiting operation overall, and pushing that forward and into maybe trying to improve it a little bit, do you sort of look at what you want to change, or just say, well, this season there were a unique set of circumstances, let's just keep doing what we're doing, and then it will improve because we have the relationships for a year. Season will be better. It's more of an upbeat type vibe around here.
I don't know what the genesis of the question is. That assuming that we didn't have a good recruiting year?
No, it's everyone wants to sign more 5-star players, yourself included, to find the next Jalen Smith out there.
Yeah.
And to have all your coaches have a year of relationships at signing day, opposed to maybe just a couple weeks.
Yeah, and I think.
Do you feel like you have to change a lot, or like stuff's good and you like the format and the system? You'll have the relationships in your favor next year.
I think we had 15 guys of the 21 that were long-term relationships. We want to continue that. I don't think that we want to go to cherry picking, late. There might be a couple of those, again, that would happen because of maybe a kid that changes their mind, and we'll be prepared for that. But no, I want to build relationships over a long period of time. I don't want to change that from what our classes look like. Since I've been here, we've been anywhere from, if you look at the average rankings, we're anywhere from 5 to 15. We're going to fall somewhere in that range every year because there's a line there that we can't get over based upon what our distinctions are here. And that line's going to keep us between 5 and 15. So we know where we're going to fall. We're going to continue to recruit the right kind of kids here. But to answer your question to the detail is that we want longer-term relationships. We don't want to just show up with a 2-week, 3-week relationship with a kid.
Thanks.
Ryan, first row. What did you see from the new assistant coaches in the last month or two, just with scrambling to move and to learn about Notre Dame and to form relationships all in such kind of a frantic period of time there?
Clark Lee is challenged with directions. Don't follow him around. He gets us lost. He's pretty. Where are you, Clark? He was on the West Coast, and everything goes north and south. Once we went into Pittsburgh, he's lost. No, I mean, we got really hard-working guys, and they, each staff brings different personalities. These are guys that like each other, enjoy being around them. They work hard. They understand Notre Dame. They understand our distinctions. So we're going out with one message. We're going out looking for the same kind of kid. That's a real good synergy when you turn over a number of coaches on your staff. So for me, I'm proud that I get a chance to lead the group that I have. And they hit the ground running. They didn't ask for much. They asked for a little bit of direction in terms of, what are our guidelines? What are the general guidelines more so than specific? And let's go to work. And they work. And that was great to see.
Oh, all right, Tim.
Come on.
Come on, Tim.
Don't be bashful.
I'm going to be that guy asking a roster question now at the very end. I know it all works out through August, but I do see about 86 in my mind. It could be 87 guys.
How many are you allowed? I don't know how many. How many are you allowed? What's the number?
Your requisite fifth-year question for this time. Have you kind of vetted it? I know it's not final. It's never completely up to you, but have you vetted everyone that could come back for a fifth year?
Yes, every single one.
and are you able to answer any questions about them
Yeah,
in particular?
sure.
We know Colin McGovern mentioned he would transfer.
Yes, he's transferring.
So just my question from that is Hunter Biven been asked back pending?
Yes, he's been asked back. He'll be in the program.
And I guess Jacob Matuska will be the only other one that would.
He is not coming back. He's going to finish his degree and no longer play football. Yes. Good?
Thanks, everybody.
Excellent. Thank you.